Let's go Dolphins! What if I told you that Mike McDaniel might be taking a discreet and calculated step to undo the damage caused by years of questionable decisions, including the long shadow of the previous management and the controversial personnel choices made under Chris Greer? Yes, that's right. There's a new energy surrounding this team, a shift in how things are run behind the scenes. And it's not just about who's injured or who's playing well. It's something deeper. It's about how this team prepares, and how that preparation might be the missing key to separating another lost season from an unexpected playoff run. And in the midst of all this, a rookie in the spotlight, veterans under unprecedented pressure, and the possibility, however subtle, that the Dolphins are finally learning from years of mismanagement and missed opportunities. I've put the pieces together and I'll show you exactly what has changed. But first, if you're a true Dolphins fan, click the like button right now. And if you followed the team during the Chris Greer era and after, I want you to comment, "Go Dolphins! I survived the chaos. We deserve a Super Bowl." Now let's get to what's really happening in Miami, because this story is just beginning. Now, let's get straight into it. It's week 14, and for the first time in what feels like forever, the Miami Dolphins walk into a game almost completely healthy. It's not a typo. This team is basically injury-free. Only 3 players showed up on the injury report for Wednesday's practice, and of those, only 2 actually had injuries. Rasul Douglas had a foot issue but played the entire game last week. Alec Ingold, who exited the Saints game with a stinger, had a neck injury but looks like he's on track. Darren Waller was limited only due to rest. Other guys like Austin Jackson, Aaron Brewer, and Benito Jones were full participants. That's right, everyone on the current 53-man roster is good to go. The only ones missing are those already on IR, names like James Daniels, Jason Sanders, and Juquan Brent. That's incredibly rare this late in the season, and it's a massive boost for a team still clinging to playoff hopes. But here's where it gets really interesting. If you've been watching closely, there's been a shift in how Mike McDaniel is handling this team down the stretch. In the past, veterans were often given rest days late in the season. It seemed like a smart move to keep legs fresh, but the results didn't follow. Remember that brutal losing streak in McDaniel's first year? Or last season, when Miami coughed up a division lead? It turns out all those rest days might have been part of the problem. Sharpness in practice matters, and McDaniel seems to have finally learned that. Lately, there have been fewer vet rest days, and more full squad practices, even for seasoned players. And while the Dolphins didn't look particularly sharp against the Commanders or Saints, they still got the wins. That might be the result of this new philosophy. Less rest, more reps. The shift could be the key to reversing the late-season curse that's haunted this team. As for the Jets matchup in Week 14, the Dolphins are 2.5-point favorites, and quite frankly, this is a game they must win. Not just for playoff hopes, but for pride. The Jets are banged up. Jermaine Johnson, Jarvis Brownlee Jr., McCray Ball, all dealing with injuries. Even Will McDonald was limited. Miami has the health advantage, the momentum, and frankly, the better roster. If they handle business, it'll be their 4th straight win and a 5th in 6 games. That would put them at 6-7, still alive, and still in the fight. And guess what? The NFL isn't overlooking this team either. The Dolphins' Week 15 game against the Steelers will remain on Monday Night Football. No flex. That means Miami will be on primetime, under the lights, and in what could be a win-or-go-home scenario. If both teams are 6-7 going in, the loser drops to 6-8, and that's likely the end of the road. So yeah, it's a big deal. But that's not all. There's another potential primetime game looming in Week 16 against the Bengals on Sunday Night Football. That one's still up in the air. If the Bengals lose this weekend and fall to 4-9, we might see it flexed out. But if they beat the Bills and Miami beats the Jets, we could have a very meaningful late-season AFC showdown. The NFL clearly believed in this Dolphins team enough to give them back-to-back December primetime games. Now it's time to prove them right. On the individual side, rookie left guard Jonah Savinia is under the microscope. And here's where the debate really heats up. Yes, there's been improvement. Over the last 2 games, against the Commanders and the Saints, his PFF grades have jumped to the mid-60s and even hit 73.8. That's a huge leap for a player who earlier in the season had pass blocking grades as low as 0.0. That's not an exaggeration. 0. Flatline. For a while, he was literally ranked dead last among all offensive guards in the league. So yeah, we're seeing progress. But let's not crown him just yet. Even with those improvements, Jonah still ranks as the 7th worst guard in the NFL this season. That's not great. And to make matters worse, his solid performances came against 2 of the league's worst pass rushing units, 29th ranked Saints and 22nd ranked Commanders. That's not exactly elite competition. And let's not forget, He gave up a sack last Sunday against New Orleans on a basic mental mistake. The entire offensive line slid left, a clear direction from Tua, and Jonah went right, leaving a linebacker unblocked to blast through and hit the quarterback. Rookie or not, that's a breakdown that can't keep happening 12 games into a season. Because here's the thing, Jonah Savinia might not just be a one-year experiment. He's only in the second year of his 4-year rookie deal. If the Dolphins don't make any drastic moves, he could be your starting left guard again in 2025 by default. But should he be? That's where the coaching staff and front office are going to have to make some tough decisions. Let's not forget that most of the offensive line is already under contract for next season. Patrick Paul is entering year 3 of his rookie deal. James Daniels will be in year 2 of his 3-year contract. And Austin Jackson and Aaron Brewer are both in the final years of their current deals. So, if Jonah isn't going to lock down that left guard spot with confidence, Miami has a choice to make. Do they roll the dice and let him grow into the position with another full offseason and camp under his belt? Or do they start scouting for potential free agents and draft prospects to challenge or even replace him outright? And that leads us to a larger conversation about this team's direction. Because if Jonah does manage to elevate his game over the final stretch of the season, not just hold the line but actually dominate against quality defensive fronts, it could change everything. A solid left tackle and left guard pairing is a cornerstone in the NFL. If Jonah and Patrick Paul can become that duo, you're suddenly looking at long-term stability on the left side, which is crucial for Tua Tagovailoa's protection and the run-first offense Mike McDaniel wants to establish. That could also mean less pressure on the front office to spend big on the O-line in the offseason, freeing up cap space to address other needs, like defensive depth, cornerback health, or even a potential wide receiver extension. Everything is connected, and Jonah's development is quietly one of the biggest X factors heading into the final stretch of this season. But let's be real, it's not just about technical improvement. It's about mental consistency. That mental lapse against the Saints wasn't just a rookie mistake. It was a sign that he still doesn't fully grasp the communication and coordination required to thrive in this offense. And while you expect some growing pains with a young lineman, those types of errors late in the season are the difference between fighting for a playoff spot or heading into another offseason full of what-ifs. Here's the uncomfortable truth. Jonah's improvement, as welcome as it is, might not be enough. He's gone from the worst to slightly less bad. And while progress should always be celebrated, it shouldn't be mistaken for long-term viability. Right now, he's still a below-average guard in the NFL, and playing well against the Saints and Commanders, 2 of the weakest defensive fronts in the league, doesn't exactly scream future starter. The next few games will be telling, especially with the Jets, Steelers, and potentially the Bills and Bengals still on the schedule. These are defenses that can bring real pressure and will test Jonah in ways those last 2 games simply didn't. So what happens if he stumbles? If we see more mental lapses, more missed assignments, more sacks given up? At that point, McDaniel and GM Chris Greer may have no choice but to explore alternatives. Whether that's drafting a new guard, bringing in a proven veteran, or even experimenting with positional changes among existing linemen, it becomes about securing this offense's foundation. Because let's not forget, this team is built around speed and timing. If the offensive line isn't synced up, none of that matters. And look, I'm rooting for Jonah. We all are. Because if he turns it around, it solves a huge problem without having to use resources to fix it. But we can't sugarcoat things either. The margin for error is razor thin, and these next games are not just about team wins, they're individual auditions for next year's roster. So Dolphins fans, I've got to ask you, should